Hello, welcome to More Yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're doing well and ready to get into the spine a little bit. Not that we don't always get into the spine a little bit in yoga. I mean, that's the entire premise of the physical practice. But we're going to get into it in a little bit more of a specific way today with something called spinal articulation. Basically, what that means is getting into all the sticky spots in the spine that we might not always get into. I've got this little physio band for one of the exercises. If you have a TheraBand or a physio band, it could be useful or fun. You absolutely don't need it. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Let's move and feel better for having moved. All right, so let's lie down. And depending on how your day has been so far, you might need some time to get some wiggles out, or little scratches, or fidgets, or anything that will help you settle onto the mat a little bit more. And you could rest here in a full sort of star pose, or maybe your knees are bent. If so, I recommend taking them at least hip width apart and letting your knees hang in toward each other, and maybe even a little bit wider so that you don't have to use any muscular activation. It might feel good to have the soles of your feet together and the knees wide in a butterfly pose. It can be pretty intense when you're supine, so just go where you need to go. And then for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more, just like that. And then continue breathing however feels best for you, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. Notice how your breath is flowing. If it feels a little bit sticky or choppy, you could gently try to lengthen through those parts. That will help smooth the breath out a little bit more. Alternatively, maybe your breath feels really open and spacious and smooth, in which case, acknowledge that for whatever it's worth today. And I want you to start to bring your focus to your spine. So tracing the line of your spine, we'll start all the way down at the coccyx, rather, the tailbone. Maybe you can imagine it, like that little pointy bone at the very end of your spine. And it starts to move up through the sacrum, the big flat part of the pelvis at the back. And then we come into the lumbar spine a little bit more. And it bends forward or toward your belly a little bit. And then as you start to move up from there, you go into the thoracic spine. And it curves backwards a little bit. You might imagine the ribs wrapping around from those thoracic vertebrae all the way into the front, maybe into the sternum. And then leaving the thoracic spine, the cervical spine, so the neck bones, and they curve forward a little bit as well. And sure, why not? Let's add the skull to the top of the spine. So then all the way up to the crown of the head. And it has this subtle wave shape. And so your spine is never totally straight. It can be long, but it still has this sort of fluidity in its shape, in its movement even. Maybe there are parts along the way in your spine that need a little bit of extra love. Maybe you've got a bulging disc or some vertebrae that were injured or ribs even. And just send a little bit more love to those areas. Last couple of moments here. And then start to bring a little bit of movement back to your body. Whatever way feels best for you here to wake up. And until you feel ready to draw your knees in toward your chest or belly and maybe take a little rock from side to side, massaging out your spine or your pelvis. You might draw circles with the thigh bones and the hip sockets here. You might extend the legs. Just move however you need to move, just to start to warm up these joints a little bit. All right. And then keeping your knees bent, bring your feet to the floor, about hip width apart and parallel-ish, close enough into your bum that you can tickle your heels with your fingertips. So we're setting up for a bridge pose. Wrap your shoulder blades toward each other so the heart can lift or can open a little bit more. And on your inhale, lift up into bridge, and then exhale, slowly lower back down. So a very sort of gentle warm up for this bridge movement. Inhale to lift and exhale to lower. I don't care how high your hips are getting. I don't care how low they might stay. I just want you to move. Inhale to lift, exhale to lower. A few more here. Again, we're just warming up the glutes, the quads, but also a little bit of movement through the spine. And the next time that you come all the way back down, pause there. You could rest in stillness, or you might take a little wiggle or windshield wiper of your legs. And then bring your feet back into your foundation position here, right? Particularly if you have moved them. Wrap your shoulder blades toward each other. And then on your inhale, lift up into bridge. This time we're going to pause at the top. Again, I don't care how high up you are. And then I want you to think of a typewriter. Okay, some people are going to be like, what's a typewriter? Well, some of us used to use them. All right, shift your hips all the way over to the right, as far as you can to the right, and then lower down just a little bit, like a centimeter or an inch even. And then shift your hips all the way over to the left, and then lower them down a little bit. And I want you to continue this motion, one side to the other, lower down a little bit, and then keep that going until eventually maybe your bum skims the floor or it lands all the way down, in which case come back to center and then lift back up and then start with the opposite side. So a few more rounds of this, and this is spinal articulation while in bridge pose. Right? We don't often get this side to side or lateral motion in bridge pose. It's all about flexion and extension. So this little bit of side to side shifting can really help get into tight spots, particularly, right, if you notice that you have tightness in your spine. Right? Less so thoracic spine here. You're really getting into lumbar, but a little bit of the thoracic spine, just not the part that's pinned on the floor. Okay, one more full round. Inhale, lift up. And then slowly make your way down with your typewriter hips. And then pause on your back once you're all the way down. Take your feet mat width apart and take a little windshield wiper of your legs. It can feel nice on your low back. And then draw your knees into your chest and take a little rock from side to side here. All right. If you have a TheraBand or a resistance band, now is a good time to grab it. I have Oh, lost mine. No, it was under my block. And then make yourself, or make your way rather, up to a seated position with your feet planted in front of you. So if you have a band, you're going to bring them on the balls of the feet and hands gripping the TheraBand. If you don't have a TheraBand, don't worry about it. Just plant your feet. You can be up on your heels, or you could have your feet fully planted if you wish. And then I want you to slowly roll down to the mat. But you're going to take these little side to side movements as you come down. So the TheraBand or the resistance band just gives you that little bit of extra feedback, a little bit of help, until eventually you come all the way down. I always have that one sticky spot in the lumbar spine. And then you're going to start to make your way back up, which can be challenging. Your feet might lift. It's okay. Just warming up the core. And if you're not using the band, you could have palms up and then just reach the arms. So slowly making your way down to the mat and then back up. Couple more. I should have warmed this up so I could demo it better, but here I am on the struggle bus with you. All right, this is not a natural way to come up and down off the floor, but there you go. Did I say one round? One full round now. Okay, and then come all the way up. Take your feet together-ish, knees wide-ish. Maybe you take a couple pulses or do your best sort of jellyfish impression. And then make your way onto hands and knees here. So eventually setting up now with your knees underneath your hips, toes can be tucked or untucked, and then hands outer shoulder width apart or wider. Let's move through some basic cat and cow undulations to start with. So inhale to lift your tailbone, hollow through the lower back, wrap the shoulder blades toward each other, beam your heart forward. Exhale, tuck your tailbone under, round through your spine, really start to press the floor away from you. And inhale into cow, exhale round into cat. So a few more of these on your own time, on your own breath. Maybe there's some other movement here that would feel good. A little wag of your tail from side to side. Hey, spinal articulation. Maybe you send your hips further back toward your heels. Maybe you skim the mat with your nose and just go where you need to go. All right. And then come back to center. Give your hands a little shake out if you need the break or if you want it even. And I'm going to turn to face you. Come back down to hands and knees. All right. So a little lift of belly button to spine. And then on your inhale, I want you to dip into your cow pose. All right, so the belly is dropped, right? The shoulder blades are retracting. And then I want you to start to take your right shoulder toward your hip. Maybe you look over the right arm or the shoulder and then start to press up to the sky, pausing in cat pose. And then take the left shoulder to the hip, getting a big opening on the right side, and then come down into cat. And then right shoulder to hip, up to the sky, left shoulder to hip, and then cow pose. So a couple more of these barrel rolls, right? It's less spinal articulation, but it's getting a big range of motion here. Okay, pause and cow, and then we're going to switch directions. So now left shoulder to hip, press up to the sky, right shoulder to hip, and then down. Couple more of these going this direction. Right, you always want to balance out the neuromuscular patterns. One more full round. And then come back to center. Give your hands a little shake out. I'm going to turn again to face the top edge of my mat. And then from here, you will either walk your hands forward or your knees back, and then shift your weight into your hands for your plank pose, either from your knees or from your toes. Just a couple breaths. Make sure the hips aren't piked up, so it's not downward facing dog, but they're also not sagging, right? So squeeze your bum, squeeze the tops of the thighs, draw your lower ribs to the sky, and then exhale, come all the way down to the floor. You can come down to your knees first. All right, little wiggle of your hips from side to side. Once you get there, untuck your toes, press the tops of your feet into the floor, so much so you feel your kneecaps lift away. Wrap your shoulder blades onto your back, little lift of belly button to spine, and then inhale, reach your heart forward to come up, baby cobra, and exhale, lower back down. So a couple more of these. Inhale to lift, and exhale to lower. You might hover your hands or take them out off the mat. You might press up higher. The higher you go, though, the more I want you to squeeze your bum, and the more I want you to press the tops of the feet into the floor. Just for this first round, anyway. First round. Oh, yeah, that's right. All right, the next time you come all the way down, bring one cheek to the earth. Maybe you take deep belly breaths to release through your lower back. Or bend your knees and take a little reverse windshield wiper of the legs. All right, and then come back to center. Plant your feet, tops of the feet, wrap the shoulder blades toward each other, belly button to spine, and then inhale, lift up into your baby cobra. Pause here, and then I want you to shift over to the right, lower down a little bit, shift over to the left, lower down a bit. So the same thing we did in bridge, but now in cobra. Till eventually you come all the way down, and then inhale, lift back up. Now you can do this from baby cobra. You can do it from higher up in cobra, but I don't want your shoulders up by your ears, and I don't want you just dumping into the low back. So I just like doing it from baby cobra. And it's kind of like you're a charmed cobra. And it could be really smooth like that, or it could be more like that typewriter motion that we did in bridge. But I really want you to squeeze your bum to protect your low back. Keep pressing the tops of the feet into the floor. One more full round here. Bit of a core workout, this. And then again, the next time you're all the way down, bring the opposite cheek to the earth to balance out your neck. Deep belly breaths. Release through your lower back. And then come back to center, plant your hands, tuck your toes, press yourself up either to hands and knees or downward facing dog, whatever's going to work best for you. If you're with me in down dog, you could pedal your heels to the earth or just take that little wag of the tail from side to side, right? Since we're getting into the spine anyway, might as well. And then bend your knees, look forward. On your exhale, walk, step, or hop to the top edge of your mat. Standing forward fold. Hands could come to blocks, or elbows could rest on thighs. You might clasp opposite elbows with hands to get more traction through your spine. And just go where you need to go for a couple breaths here. Make sure your knees are micro bent or even deeply bent. Trust me, you don't want them locked out back behind you. And then with fingertips to your shins or blocks or the earth, inhale, a little partway lift, back of the neck stays long. Exhale, let it all go. Couple more. All right. And then bend your knees a little bit more. Glue your chin into your chest. And I want you to roll up a little bit, shift to the right, roll up a little bit, shift to the left, roll up a little bit. Okay, so as we roll up, we're doing spinal articulation. And you can smooth it out a little bit so it becomes a little bit more fluid, a little bit more sinuous. And then we're going to do the same thing coming back down. So tuck the chin and take these little shifts side to side as you roll down back into your forward fold. Let's do one more full round up and down. I really like this variation. Really helps me get into sticky spots. Last time all the way down. All right, fingertips to shins. Inhale, a little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Charge your legs. Inhale, sweep all the way up to the sky. Exhale, hands to prayer. All right, shake it out. Take a couple little sways from side to side. Oh, these twists can feel good after this spinal articulation work. Right? You might feel like you're a little bit tighter, but in a sort of muscular activation way rather than a crunching sort of way through the spine. I know that this really gets muscles that I'm not used to working. All right, so let's try to release now a little bit more through the spine. Feet hip width apart-ish. Belly button to spine, tailbone to the earth. On your inhale, sit into your chair pose. So hips go down and back. Tailbone down slightly till you feel your belly button engage. And then bring your arms either into cactus or into a W. Maybe one feels better on your shoulder than the other. Shoulders. Inhale here. As you exhale, tuck your tailbone round through the spine. Give an imaginary friend a big bear hug. And then inhale, lift back up. Exhale, round. Couple more on your own time. My wrist hopefully luxuriating in this spinal flexion and extension. And then inhale, come all the way up to standing. Shake it out a little bit. And then come back to feet hip width apart. Inhale, chair pose. Arms to cactus or a W. Inhale here. Exhale, reach over to the left. And then back to center. And then over to the right. And center. Last two. And then let's link those movements together. So you might start to take big circles through the spine, making sure you get extension here. Right, go where you need to go. I don't care what it looks like. I can't see you. Right? Just move how you need to move. Last breath here. Exhale, release all the way into your standing forward fold. Fingertips to shins. Inhale, a little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees. Plant your hands. Come down to hands and knees. Little wiggle or shake or cat and cow. And then shift your hips on one side, swing your legs forward. You'll get one last little sneaky round of spinal articulation as we come down to the mat. If you want to use your band on your feet, you can. Otherwise, as long or rather as slow or as fast as you want to make your way down. And then all the way down on the floor. Draw your knees in toward your chest. Take a little rock from side to side. Take your right arm out to the side. You might shift your hips right a little bit to start with. And then as you exhale, lower your knees all the way to the left for a twist. It can be as gentle or as deep as you need to. But again, these twists can feel like a really nice last release after that articulation work. I don't know about you, but that word is starting to not make sense to me anymore, when you say a word often or too many times. Last couple breaths here. And then slowly on your inhale, return to center. Reset your pelvis and your spine. Maybe you shift the hips left a little bit. Left arm goes out to the side. And then exhale. Lower your knees to the right. Again, as gentle or as deep of a twist as you need on this side. Honestly, sometimes this feels like more of an outer hip stretch for me than a twist, but make sure you're not yanking or pulling, right? Give yourself this opportunity to release a little bit more. One more inhale. One sweet exhale. Okay. And then unwind. Come back to center. Again, reset your pelvis and your spine. And then bring the feet hip width apart, parallel-ish. We're going to get just one round of bridge pose just to reset the pelvis. So press the hips into, or feet rather, into the earth. And then inhale, lift the pelvis and spine up and away. Just a couple breaths, very basic bridge pose. And then exhale, lower all the way down. And then draw your knees toward you. Take them wide out toward your shoulders or armpits. Right? Happy baby. This is a great way to neutralize the spine as well. You could stay here and maybe kick the feet up to the sky. Maybe grab the backs, the thighs, or somewhere along your legs, your ankles, or your feet. You might rock a little bit from side to side. Just go wherever you need to go. Notice if your tailbone is kind of curling up to the sky, though. If so, can you think of neutralizing the spine a little bit? So send your tailbone to the foot edge of your mat, just slightly. All right. And if there's anything else you feel like you need before your rest, please feel free to take it. Otherwise, start to make your way into your final resting pose. You could be flat on your back, legs bent or straight in Shavasana. You could rest on your side or in child's pose, or maybe legs up the wall would feel really good, or even a seated meditation. And as always, there's no rush to get there. But once you have found your final resting pose, for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. Let go of your breath control. Return to your natural breath. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension, particularly in your neck or your jaw. With each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. And thoughts may come and go. Acknowledge them. without judgment, but let them go. Let them drift by you like cherry blossoms on the wind. Stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.